What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, and I got to tell you something. The ENIC PR is in overdrive today. We've had interviews from Vinay Venkatesham with Sammy Mokbel on the BBC. We've had a statement from the Lewis family. We had the Charrington statement as well. There is one particular person that's been missed out, that hasn't been given any words to say, or hasn't come out and said his twopence on, or maybe one pence on what...
Tuppence, I think it is.
It's worse than tuppence. On the situation at Spurs. Is that telling? It very might well be. But we're going to get into all of it.
Something tells me maybe season ticket renewals aren't as high as they had hoped.
Yeah, maybe.
Something tells me.
I think a lot of people are just waiting till the bitter end, right until that end, to renew their season ticket. But we're going to get into it all. There's also been a massive internal review at Tottenham Hotspur as well, which we'll get into. But first and foremost, let's get into this update and let's start off talking about this internal review. Alistair Gold has told us that Spurs have launched an internal review into their wretched season, which includes a psychologist that's going to join to banish the Spursy thinking, ending the horrendous injury record, and an investigation into the pitch as well. So we'll get into each one specifically. But I found it funny, a psychologist joining to banish the Spursy thinking. I mean,
if you need to, first of all, I remember, wasn't that supposed to be banished last year when we actually won a trophy? You know what I mean? That was supposed to be a big thing, like a big weight off our shoulders. I'm not saying we haven't been Spursy. This season, it's a weird one. It's not... Spursy is... What I classify as Spursy is when grabbing defeat from the jaws of victory. That is Spurs. When you're in the ascendancy, you've got, you're 2-0 up and you end up losing 3-2 in the last minute, or you've got an open goal and you miss it and then you concede at the other end. That's like Spursiness to me. Like, this season hasn't been Spursy. It's been just utter dire. It's been shite. You know what I mean?
In a sense, though, because we've won that European trophy and we're going into this season full of hope, full of kind of, Spurs can actually do something this season. We're all predicting 4th, 5th, all this kind of stuff, and we have a relegation battle.
Yeah, but that's not Spursiness. That's the club running badly. Spursiness is...
having all the hope and falling flat on your face.
No, Spursiness is being 4th on the final day and losing, you know what I mean, and dropping out. That's Spursy. This season, nearly being relegated, that's not Spursy. That's just a really badly run club making really bad decisions. And I think putting it on some sort of mythical mentality as to why we're in this position. How many games this season did we deserve to win and just and failed and fall flat on our faces and not? For me, Spursiness is when you have everything in your power to win, but there's something stopping you. That's Spursy. That's not what's been this season.
That's right. That's individual game Spursiness, but the whole situation has definitely been Spursy with the hope everyone had going into the season. Even from the, I guess what was Spursy was the Super Cup. That was definitely very Spursy. But yeah, from the intentions going into the season and what we got at the end of it.
Yeah, but they're talking about bringing a psychologist to help with these players to banish Spurs. I'm assuming it's the players. I don't think it's with everyone else to banish Spursy, right? And my point is, I don't think it's this kind of problem with Spursy with the players this season. That hasn't been the issue for me. I don't think we lost all those games because of Spursiness. We lost it because of shit coaching, shit decisions from the hierarchy. It wasn't that we had everything set up to win games and we just Spursed it up. That wasn't what the case was this season. I think there's a lot of seasons, right, where we've been in really promising positions and we've been playing really well, but when it comes to the end, we just don't get over the line for some reason. We get to a semi-final and we lose. We got to Champions League final and we lose. All those kind of things. That, for me, that's like a psychological issue with Spursiness, because the club had all the players that it needed, Harry Kane, Son, whatever, and we just couldn't get over the line. Then I think when it comes to that Spursiness, you maybe need a psychologist. I'm not saying we don't need a psychologist, by the way. I'm just saying to banish Spursy at this point, I think is identifying the wrong problem, is my point.
I think that's your definition of Spursy. Obviously, everyone has their own definition of it because it's not an actual thing. I think what it's
Which
been...
is a problem in itself, I would say.
Yeah. I think what it is now, what most people kind of think what Spursy is just being shit. I think that's what people think about it. And we've been too accustomed to losing, even from last season. I know we won the Europa League, but we lost way too many games last season. We lost way too many games this season. I think we get more points this season than we did last season in the Premier League, which is crazy. It's nuts. So I think a psychologist needs to come in just to get them out of that kind of mode. We've just been way too used to losing.
I agree with that. I'm not saying we don't need a psychologist. I'm just saying I think the narrative that they're coming in to banish Spursy, I think kind of lets a lot of people off the hook. You know what I mean, of why we're actually in this situation. And it's like, it's implying it's just a psychological barrier of Tottenham's fear of failure, which is why we're in the position of really getting relegated. But I don't think that's the case. That's kind of what I read into that when they say, oh, it's to banish this Spursy mythical thing, which I agree has been a problem. And there's probably psychological damage done to a lot of these players over these last 2 years with the amount of criticism they faced and the amount of losses we've faced. But I just don't like the way they've put it. Oh, it's to banish Spursy, because they've implying we've had things in a place to win and we just haven't got over the line through our own psychological problems. And that's not, I don't like that narrative from what for me anyway.
Fair enough, but maybe the Super Cup, maybe they're just thinking about the Super Cup.
I doubt it.
So Dan Lewington, former England physio, who joined Spurs from the City Group in February, is the man tasked with an overhaul of the Tottenham deal with their injuries and their player performance. De Zerbi is believed to have already struck up a good relationship with Lewington, with the pair known to regularly chat about the improvements that need to be made for the club's performance and medical department to bring them in line with the world's top clubs. So Dan Lewington, I think, worked with England Rugby. He worked with the City Group, obviously doing great jobs there. But I mean, again, I don't even know what to make out of something like that. It's just the proof will be in the pudding. There's nothing really much to say about it.
I don't know why they're not in line with the world's top clubs 6 years after this stadium's been opened. More 7 years now, isn't it?
Well, we know exactly why.
I'm just saying, well...
We know exactly why.
We don't know why. We know who's responsible. We don't know why.
We know exactly why, because football has not been at the forefront of this football club. That's why. Because they don't invest in those kind of infrastructures of the footballing matters. They've been investing in other infrastructures around outside of football. That's why. This is exactly why.
Well, this should have been done a long time ago. This should have been done before we got into this stadium.
Of course.
This should have been done. We should always be in line with the world's top clubs that's where you're aiming to be. So the fact that we're not, or they're implying that we're not, is ridiculous, and it's a joke. It's a joke that we're not already at that stage. Why does it take two massive injury crises to be at that stage? We shouldn't need to take that. We should already want the best in class when it comes to the medical team.
Of course.
Yeah, but I'm sure when they hire people, they don't just not interview them. I'm sure they've gone for good people. You know what I mean? When it comes to the medical team,
best
so I don't
in class?
understand. I don't know. I'm not in the interview room. Look. Are we thinking? Are they trying to cut costs with the medical team, or are they just hiring the best people they interview? I would like to think they do, but we don't know for sure. Maybe there's something wrong with their process, like with the manager process. Maybe that's the problem.
Regarding the medical team, there is also an acknowledgement within Tottenham that a high turnover in managers has contributed to injuries. The main reason being frequently changing training sessions, head coaches pushing players harder, and players pushing themselves beyond to impress the new manager. Tottenham are looking to improve the trust that the players have with the medical department at the club. This comes after some had chosen to put their faith in staff from their previous clubs or their national team. And we've seen that firsthand, haven't we?
Seen that with a few players, most notably, obviously, Kuti, who's done that with Argentina. I think Charleston's done that. There's probably a number of other examples. Probably guessing Kudus as well.
Kudus went back to Ajax, didn't he?
So, yeah, I think he's another one who's probably done that at the moment. So there is a clear distrust. We've heard it from other sources that no one in the playing staff really likes the medical team in terms of trust them to be competent and deal with their injuries, and they always want outside sources, and it's ridiculous it's come to that. I understand it's not like that uncommon in other clubs to receive external help, But the reason why clubs are against it is because if anything goes wrong, the club's going to be held responsible at the end of the day for either allowing it to happen or, you know, going to be missing their player if something goes bad from an external. So if they're going to be responsible, they want to deal with it. But at the end of the day, our medical staff are failing badly on a number of occasions. Players getting re-injured and all this kind of stuff. When it comes to that, what they're saying about the high turnover of managers, I'm sure that has an effect, to be honest. I'm not surprised because...
And probably the high turnover of medical staff as well.
Yeah, all of that stuff has an effect. No continuity, which is why I was, you know, so desperate to have some continuity at some point, which, again, we haven't... And it's got even worse ever since last year. So let's hope De Zerbi's the guy, and let's hope we have just someone in place for a good few years so we can stabilise as a football club, and then all the players we come in, get used to these training methods, and you know, their bodies aren't being put through different kind of things that can maybe open them up to potential injuries. So I think the 100% that could be a massive factor.
Yeah, Alistair Gold's also claiming that Xavi Simons' ACL injury was actually dealt with correctly by the Tottenham physios. The player was keen to continue but unable to do so, and the right precautionary steps were believed to have been taken with no additional damage done. Apparently, Xavi Simons has since apologised to the medical team with the way he was being with them on the sidelines, and he was like basically not taking no for an answer, and he just wanted to get back on that pitch.
Yeah, which is, considering the position we were in at the time, I can kind of understand Xavi, and it's not the first time we've seen that from a player.
But we all criticise the medical team over the handling of that situation.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're not medical experts, but making someone who has a suspected ACL jump up and down and run up and down the touchline doesn't seem clever. But maybe there. I mean, we did hear Dr. Andre say someone on ACL can still walk. It's not like it's obviously a bad injury, but it's not one where you need a stretcher per se. You know, you can actually walk on it, and it's about certain movements that you can't do. So maybe those are the right kind of tests you do for an ACL. So maybe we're too harsh at the time. It's possible. Obviously, the club are going to try and say that, aren't they? They don't want to have any culpability. They don't want to open themselves up to anything. Potentially, maybe if Xavi hears they dealt with it wrong, maybe they open them up to a lawsuit or something. So they've obviously probably going to say that either way, but maybe it's correct. Maybe there was nothing wrong with the test they did.
On the pitch, everyone's been kind of saying, well, look at these ACL injuries. Real Madrid have got a similar amount. Is it down to the pitch? And external independent tests on each match day have already been conducted on the pitch at Tottenham Hotspur. These are understood to have shown no difference to the bounce and the spring of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium pitch compared to Hotspur Way. A deeper, detailed analysis is set to take place over time to ensure a deeper review, and they've also been comparing the surfaces at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and also at Hotspur Way to see if there's any differences in that aspect as well.
And I don't know what really to say about it until there's any conclusive stuff from the further deep investigation. But similar to what I said about Xavi, I think there is definitely an interest in Tottenham for them to say there's nothing wrong with the pitch, because they don't want to be held responsible for what's happened this season with how they've dealt with how they've developed this pitch, how they've created it, spent millions and hundreds of millions of pounds with it, the retractable nature of it, and then if it comes up that there's something seriously wrong, they're going to have to change all of it, that can create serious problems for them, and again with potential either lawsuits and as well more money to completely change what the pitch is doing. So there is a bit of an interest for them to come up with some review that says it's not the problem, but then again it's also within their interest to find the problem, because they're losing these players every single year for over a year at this point, and the amount of ACLs is ridiculous, so that can't continue. So I'd like to think they're being honest about it, but you never know with these kind of reviews when they're done. I know they're saying it's done for a third party, but it's still a review that they've kind of organised, and maybe they're just trying to cover their own arse, but we'll see.
SZY says it is serious this time around. De Zerbi demanded a full review into the club's recurring injury issues during negotiations when joining. It was one of the several assurances discussed before everything was finalised. De Zerbi's coming to save us, people. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Delighted, because there needs to be a full review. There needs to be every single every carpet needs to be pulled up and seen what's been brushed under the carpet. That everything needs to be under the microscope right now, because there's been so many failures at this football club from every department that I think everything needs to be looked at. You can't have any stone left unturned. So I'm delighted
Absolutely.
De Zerbi's looking at the situation, thinking, if I'm for next season, you know, we need everything looked at, everything, and it looks like it's underway.
In terms of transfers, let's get into Savinho. Graham Bailey says that Man City have informed Savinho that he can leave the club this summer. Savinho's agent also has liked Fabrizio Romano's post, linking him with the Tottenham move as well. So not sure what to make out of that. If there is anything to make out of it, I don't know. But we know that Spurs, well, Fabrizio Romano has claimed that Spurs are going back in for Savinho, have rekindled their interest and talks have begun. Do you feel like this one is actually going to happen this summer?
Yeah, it's definitely hotting up, isn't it? This Savinho deal again. I definitely think it's a lot more likely this summer. Last summer, I never really believed it was ever going to happen. But this summer, considering that he stayed and then he didn't get the game time maybe he wanted, and he ended up missing out the World Cup, which was his ultimate fear of what would happen if he stayed. I think when you look at that situation, the fact that Doku's developed amazingly this season, they've signed Semenyo on top of that. Obviously, they've got other players who can play in those positions. I think Savinho's probably looking at the situation thinking, if I'm really going to develop to my full potential, I need to be going somewhere where I'm playing week in, week out, where they believe in me. And Man City, is he ever going to be more than a fringe player right now? And that's the fear for him. So I think it could happen. I think the price would have dropped. The only fear for me is, obviously he's quite open to us coming to Spurs, but I would be shocked if there's not a little bit of interest elsewhere from other clubs, maybe in Europe or not, that might be looking at him. But if we can steal ahead of the...
What kind of clubs do you reckon be interested in?
I'm not sure, but I would be surprised if, you know, maybe a Liverpool. I wouldn't be surprised if they're not. Why not? They need a winger.
They need a top winger.
No, but they need more. They need like 3 wingers.
They're not going to bring in a Savinho.
Why not?
Because he's shown he's not at that level yet, and they want players that can get them to the title.
I think he could easily be someone they target. Maybe one of the teams, I don't know, Villa or Newcastle, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Newcastle have been accredited with interest.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if one of these other clubs... Look, Liverpool, Salah's gone, right? Diaz went last season. Who are their wingers? Rio, Gakpo, and that's it.
Yeah, they need to bring in players.
So they need like 3 or 4, so why can't Savinho be one of those? I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think
I wouldn't
so.
be shocked at all if Liverpool look at him. I think he's such a Liverpool kind of player as well. So I think hopefully we steal ahead of the March, and if there is a March, and ahead of the competition and get him in early, because I think he'd be a really good signing for us. But yeah, I think it's a lot more likely to happen this summer than it was last summer, especially with Pep gone as well.
SZY also claiming that he understands nothing is decided yet regarding Luka Vuckovic's future, despite the reports. Many clubs are interested in taking him on loan if he is made available. However, no decision has been made as of yet. Obviously, they need to work out what's going on with Cuti Romero yet. There's no concrete information what's happening with him. So, yeah, I guess that just makes sense, doesn't it? Nothing's going to be decided probably until De Zerbi gets him back for pre-season.
Yeah, and that's the right course of action. You can't decide anything without De Zerbi's final say, and he hasn't seen him firsthand, and that would only happen in pre-season. Same thing happened last season. Nothing was decided until we saw Frank saw Vuckovic firsthand, and then he obviously decided to let him
and he saw him smash at him pre-season, and then he was like, off you go, mate.
So, obviously, even if he sees him firsthand, there'll have to be a discussion what he wants personally, what we could potentially do in the market if he does go on loan. So all those things obviously play into it. But yeah, I don't think he'll play a few games in pre-season. I'm pretty certain of that.
Yeah. There's one that's just been brought to my attention as well from SZY and Spurs journos, saying that Spurs will resume talks to extend Mickey van der Ven and Pedro Porro's contract this summer, and both are understood to be keen on extending their contracts and are viewed as very key figures under Roberto De Zerbi and moving forward with this squad. So that is music to my ears. So I think both these players you saw a massive change in once De Zerbi came in. I don't think Porro was having a good season at all up until De Zerbi's come in, and he's ended the season really well. Mickey van der Ven was having a good season, then went completely off the boil, and then you saw a clear change in mentality when he came back in. So when De Zerbi came, so yeah, I'm delighted for that.
Yeah, I think both of these players have very unique kind of assets, which I think De Zerbi really needs or would really appreciate for what he's trying to do at Tottenham. So I think these are two absolutely key players. I think if you look at the back line, they're probably our two most important players for De Zerbi, in my opinion, with Porro's ability and build up and his just quality on the ball, and then Van der Ven's at that obviously unbelievable pace in behind as well, covering pace, and obviously he's growing that ability to defend all the time. So I think especially Van der Ven, obviously that's unbelievable news. Porro, I never really expected him to leave. I'm sure if he was going to leave, there would be some interest, but I think he's pretty happy here. I don't see him going anywhere. So I was pretty confident he was going to stay. But yeah, Van der Ven, obviously there seems to be a switch, but with all the noise, you can never be too sure until you hear the news for sure that he's definitely staying, especially with what was going on last season. So to hear that the rumours now that he's going to sign a new contract, that would be a massive coup. You know what?
With Pedro Porro, I wasn't confident he was going to say pre De Zerbi. He was complaining about the fans and all this kind of stuff. He didn't look happy whatsoever. I think if De Zerbi didn't come in, I think Porro would have looked to leave in the summer. On Sebastian Kell, SZY saying that Spurs aren't settled on him yet. Dougie Freeman is still in the background. However, he doesn't want to work with Johan Langer.
Bring him in. Get him in.
And SZY also did respond to a post about Johan Langer leaving, and he said TikTok. Let's hope. I think that would be my ideal scenario, Johan Langer to leave and Dougie Freeman to come in. I think Dougie Freeman did such a good job at Crystal Palace, and I think he can do such a good job here as well. Yeah,
it's hard to know really when it comes to sporting directors. It's not like, in some ways it is like a footballer. Just because they work in one system doesn't mean they work in another. So in some ways it is like that. But I think football, being a sporting director is even more harder to know exactly if they're going to work at one club.
But he's clearly got a big eye for talent, doesn't he?
Yeah, Langer had an eye for talent at Villa. Some of the players that he signed are still playing for them. So I know they did badly as a club, but the talent did all right. But to be fair, Dougie Freeman was a bit different. I'm just saying it's hard to know. But for sure, I'm willing to go in a different direction, of course. I want Lang out. I don't know about this Kel geezer, but he comes in as an instant hero if he chucks Lang out the door immediately.
So who did Langer sign for Villa that's still there and doing well?
I think McGinn.
I
think I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was quite a few players that he signed, and they're still. I think Watkins, I think he signed him as well. So there's quite a few players that were all right that he signed, but they did horribly, Villa, under him. So whatever reason that happened. But when it comes to Sebastian Kell, from what I've seen, I'd much rather Freeman from what I've researched. In terms of the business they've done and what they've done for their respective clubs, Freeman seems a better pick to me. But it's hard to know. It's hard to know, really, when it comes to Tottenham, whether they'll be the best fit.
Yeah, I just think you're looking at the kind of talent he brought in at Crystal Palace. You're looking at Michael Elise, and look at what he's doing now. You look at Eberechi Eze. Obviously, we know he's just won the league. He's got a real eye for talent, and he's got such a knowledge of the game, not just in England, but in Europe as well. So he kind of seems to find these kind of gems that will go on and get to be really good and have a high value. So I think that's what Spurs need to be looking at. We finished 2 17th places in a row. We're not exactly going to be able to bring in the best and most kind of common talent in the world. So we need to find these kind of gems.
I agree with that. I completely agree with that.
And I think Dougie Freeman, out of the sporting directors that have been spoken about, is the one that has shown the proof in the pudding more than anyone else. Last but not least, we've got these quotes from Son Heung-min, our Oh man, I miss Sonny, man, and when you hear these quotes as well, it just hits home even more. And he says, talking on the Everton game, he says, watching the game, I was just so anxious and nervous, as if I was playing out there on the pitch myself. Whenever Everton got the ball, I would start shaking. It's a team I have a lot of affection for. It was emotionally difficult watching Spurs throughout this season. I often found myself wondering if I'd left the team too early. I hope they can deliver a much better and more comfortable season for the fans next year. They're still close friends of mine, and I still keep in touch with them regularly. Even now, when things get difficult, some of the players still call me and ask, what should I do? By the time training finishes and I get home, it's usually evening over in England, so we get time to talk then. Thanks to them, I was able to experience winning the Europa League last year. They're my friends who gave me a lot of great memories, so I was really happy with this result. I mean, you did leave too early, Sonny. You most definitely needed you this season, man. We needed Sonny desperately. Just that leadership ability more than anything else.
Well, the fact they bloody call him after every game, it seems, to say, like, well, what can we do? What's going wrong? Clearly shows that they haven't left him behind, because they're still looking for him to lead.
Why aren't they going to their actual captain for that?
Well, I'm sure they are as well, but Sonny is like that extra bit, isn't he? He's still their leader, isn't he? He's still so fresh, because he only just left, and they know that Son probably has a open door policy, or should I say open phone policy.
Because they know Sonny would never drop any sort of standards. That's why they go to Sonny and not Romero, I'll tell you that.
I mean, I don't know if they don't talk to Romero. I mean, you're assuming that, but I know they do talk to Son. And because Son was such a great leader, and it was not just that, he was a really great friend with them. So they know that Son like really cares and will want to try and fix these problems together, 100%. And it's a shame that it ended when it did, and 100% we could have done with him in that dressing room this year, 100%. Even if he wasn't playing every game, we could have done with him in and around the dressing room.
Yeah.
And I think it really hurt us, him not being there. And I think he felt that. That's why he's saying, maybe I should leave these guys in the lurch a bit. Maybe I did.
One more year. We needed one more year from Sonny. That's what I believe.
But it's done now.
It's done now. We survived. We got through, which is hopefully the worst. But I can't wait for the World Cup to see him back in action for Korea. And let's hope he smashes it. But that is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding all the news stories that we have spoken about today.